Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video. We just hit 40.2k subscribers. Can we get to 41k by the end of the month? Please like this video down below and subscribe to the channel. But before we get started, I have to tell you guys about my friends over at My Patriot Supply. As Americans, we need to be prepared, and that includes avoiding the long lines at the grocery store by stocking up on disaster food supply. And there is no better disaster food kit than the ones over at American-made My Patriot Supply. Take action so you're ready for what's coming and save up to $100 on a 4-week emergency food kit when you go to my special website, preparewithredeagle.com. Those that know what's coming are preparing today. Go to preparewithredeagle.com. That is preparewithredeagle.com. And today we have to talk about the polls because I've got a lot of people reaching out to me and saying, I don't trust these polls, or the polls don't look good for Trump. Trump's almost down by 10% in the national aggregate right now, 51.2 to 41.4. And usually you would say it's scary because if one person's over 50, it's a little harder for the other person to be able to bring them down. And a lot of people are a little concerned on the Trump side, and I'm going to tell people why I don't trust the polls. I will believe it when I see it. The polls in 2016 nationally were not that far off, but these polls very well could be. And a lot of them are very improperly weighted. And you see this throughout the country. And you saw it a little bit back in 2016, especially early on. The polls were not entirely weighted properly in terms of party ID. That's the big thing. And you see this in the #1 poll in 2016 and 2018. The gold standard was The Economist, and has Trump down to Biden by 9 percentage points. But if you look at the crosstabs in here and where it says party ID, 94% of Democrats are going to Biden, 90% of Republicans are going to Donald Trump, and Trump is beating Biden among independents by 2. That relatively makes sense in the independent front, especially from the fact that Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton by 2%. And you see some of these polls that have Trump down by like 30 with independents like Fox. I would just throw those away. Even John McCain nearly beat Obama among independents. I think he lost it by a few percent, and he got shellacked nationwide. So in terms of independents, it's going down the wire because independents relatively lean right. And when you look at the 2016 election results and you see this in terms of the popular vote, there really hasn't been a lot of people switching sides. Yes, there's been some Trump voters that probably will go over to Biden. There's going to be some Clinton voters that are going to come home to Trump. These things are called trends. That's how it works. But at the same time, you have other things like Gary Johnson voters that could come over to Trump, and their approval of Donald Trump is fairly high right now, and it's always been high, especially the people that voted for Romney and then voted for Johnson. A lot of those voters are going to come home to Trump. The Libertarians are running a fairly weak candidate. I wouldn't even expect them to crack 2% in the nationwide vote total. But in terms of there being a big popular vote change, I really don't see it. There hasn't been any evidence of Trump's base really cracking. The only thing would be turnout. And turnout, honestly, if turnout is boosted, it could help Trump. Turnout on the Democrat side, if it's boosted, and it's boosted in the primary a little bit, will that help Biden? A lot of people are saying it potentially could. But at the same time, we've seen record primary turnout for Donald Trump and the Republican Party as well. And the silent majority is real, and the silent majority very well could be back. Even if you go by the midterm turnout differential and weight the polls properly, it's only like a 1 to 2% difference from the actual expected result. And the Republicans have to vote. They're going to come home. A lot of them that didn't vote in the midterms, because the people that didn't vote in the Midwest in the midterms, that's typically your non-college white type of voter that's not very well educated, but they voted in the general election, and those people helped Trump win back in 2016. So the Democrats are being more complacent than ever, but the truth is they could be in big trouble, especially if they are going to look at the polls and not necessarily weight them. Because yeah, the aggregate has Trump down by 6.3 when it's weighted. If you look at it here, it has Trump down by 9.8, so clearly the polls are already off in terms of the party ID calculation by 3.5. That doesn't even, take account for a potential hidden Trump voter or anything like that. And if you throw away the bad polls where Trump is doing abysmally among independents, if you look at the CNN poll, if you look at the Fox poll, if you throw them out, Trump is down by just 3.6. And in my model, in terms of the popular vote, Trump would still win the Electoral College. He would narrowly win Michigan. He would narrowly hold on to Arizona and Pennsylvania by the skin of his teeth. He would win Wisconsin by, half of a percentage point or so, and potentially pick up New Hampshire. That will get him to 294. By the way, this is on my website, redeaglepolitics.com, my election center. I finally updated it So if you guys want to check it out, I'll be updating it throughout the week and things like that. But you look at the polls, the Emerson poll, there was a bias against Trump by 2. NPR, it was 1.7. CNN, it was 3.4. Fox News actually was biased towards Trump by 0.4, but it was such an abysmal, terrible poll that I really wouldn't look into it too much. And the Economist poll has Biden by 9. This was the gold standard. However, this poll was the worst in terms of weighting because when it was properly weighted, Trump is just 0.7% away from winning the popular vote. And that's actually some type of margin that I actually would expect at the end of the day, especially after the debates and things like that. So again, it's the gold standard. If you look at that poll, it's looking fairly good for Donald Trump. In terms of the Quinnipiac poll, Biden plus a Quinnipiac, a very left-leaning pollster, by the way. And when weighted properly, Biden is up by less than 5%. And Biden's going to have to win the popular vote by over 4, potentially by 5 if he wants to win the Electoral College. People have to take that into consideration. So it's going down the wire. I'm sick and tired of hearing the pundits, the election mafia, those kind of people come out here and talk about how Trump is finished, Trump is over. But they're in their own fantasy land, even more so than 2016. So in terms of complacency, the left shouldn't be complacent, the right shouldn't be complacent, because yes, it's going to go down the wire. It's not going to be a landslide for either side, most likely, but Trump voters need to realize this and get out to vote in order to make it happen. But the bottom line here is the energy on Trump's side is there. It's not really on Biden's side. I could take enthusiasm into this model. I'm going to be developing the model even more so. Right now, Trump is ahead by 50 Electoral College votes, but that could very well change between now and then. And we could really see what happens, because right now it's not looking like it's going to be an election that Biden is going to carry away with, looking at the unweighted polls. The pollsters are lying to you. They have an agenda that they are trying to push to, and it's important that we, as ordinary Americans, call them out for it and not listen to them and continue to push on and continue to fight, because this is what they want to do. They want to demoralize you to say, Trump is finished, Trump is over, Trump is a failure. And that's not true. We see Trump taking action. We saw him take massive action. Apparently 400 miles of walls are going to be built by the end of this year alone. You see him taking action, suspending visas, helping revitalize the economy ahead of the 2020 election. Unemployment's falling. The stock markets are recovering, things like that. Yeah, we're not doing so well in terms of social cohesion, but it was really bad in 2016 too. If people didn't forget, now it's just more of a problem because corporations are just piling on with their virtue signaling nonsense. But that's beside the point. And that's only going to invigorate people to come out and vote for Trump. It's not going to get them to vote for Biden to stop this nonsense, because Biden is a part of that head. Biden is a part of that nonsense. So whatever losses Trump has right now because of the riot response, he very well could eventually get those voters back and get some new voters potentially. So we'll have to see. It's important to stay optimistic, but cautiously optimistic, because this election is going to be won by turnout. Either way, like I said, this is what matters. You're not going to see a whole lot of these voters switch sides. The bottom line is you need to boost the Trump turnout numbers, and you need to bring, the Johnson voters aboard, which he will. And if you look at the numbers here, not a whole lot of movement going on. It's not going to be that big of an effect either way, but Trump has to consolidate his base regardless if he wants to win, and he will. And potentially he could shake up the campaign a little bit, but either way, it's looking fairly good. And in terms of moving forward with the polls, don't look at real clear politics, look at Red Eagle politics, because we give it to you the real way. We give you the polls broken down correctly. I'm also going to be incorporating the state polls, the Senate races, the governor races, Trump's approval rating, and potentially breaking them down by some other subgroups, subdemographics, things like that. So it's going to be very important to watch. But Trump has a very good chance to win. I don't care what the polls say. I don't care what the betting odds say. A lot of these people are so-called experts, but they really have no idea what's going on. They're very out of touch. They don't understand the situation on the ground. And potentially, come the end of the election cycle, it could be a bigger shock than it was in 2016. So make sure you guys weight the polls properly. Again, go to my website, redeaglepolitics.com. I will be updating the polls relatively every day or so. And we're going to see what happens, because this aggregate right now is a disaster. It looks like a disaster, and the methodology used by pollsters, oversampling Democrats, is a massive disaster. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Please like this video down below, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media, join the Discord and subreddit, donate to the Patreon or subscribe, star links in description. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle, out.